he understood what central banking was about. Central banking is not about being popular. Most central bankers, if they're doing the job properly, they're very unpopular. It's about supporting the economy. And there's a big difference between supporting the economy and supporting the stock market. And when Volcker was there, he supported the economy. He did what was needed to bring inflation back in line. He took actions that would make economic conditions better for companies. To me, that's what the Fed should do. And that's looking after, to take the phrase that's used in the States, looking after Main Street rather than Wall Street. Unfortunately, when Volcker left in 1987, Alan Greenspan came in and the whole culture of the Federal Reserve changed. It then became the idea, these people, the Federal Reserve Chairman didn't want to be in the headlines every second day. That wasn't what his job was. He was a regulator. He was someone there to create conditions for the economy. Once Greenspan came in, anyone who calls himself maestro, you have to ask some questions. And he wanted to be popular with everybody. He was the first guy who created what they call the Fed put. So anytime the market looked wobbly, he reduced interest rates. And the problem was, prior to his arrival, I would say that monetary policy at the Federal Reserve and elsewhere was symmetrical. So in other words, when conditions were too hot, the Fed put up interest rates to cool things down a bit. When things were in recession or our economic growth was very soft, they cut interest rates to boost it again. But once Greenspan arrived, it became asymmetrical. Every time the economy was in trouble, he cut rates, but he never really put them back up to any great extent. And this is, I suppose, it's the strongest feeling I have when it comes to markets and policy, because I think it's totally wrong. He tried to kill the economic cycle. To me, like the economic cycle, prior to his arrival, what you typically had was you had 3 or 4 years of growth and then maybe a year of recession. And in the recessionary year, stock markets might drop about 20%. It's like a market clearing event. The unprofitable companies and the companies that did dumb things, they got punished. And then, things took off again. And the problem is we haven't had any market clearing events since 1987, apart from 1 or 2 crashes. And therefore, the economy is never repairing itself. We've no market clearing event. The stock market goes higher and higher and higher and more unsustainable. And, that's where I feel we are now. I think we've a massive risk of a huge crash. I don't know when it'll happen, but if you think about it for one moment, in the US economy, you have an economy that's had the biggest tax cuts they've had for the last 50 years. They've had the biggest stimulus for the last 50 years. They've had the lowest interest rates of all time. And despite that, it's still only growing at a moderate level. So there's something clearly, to me, the economy has become like a junkie. That's requiring all of these, quantitative easing measures, all of this money printing and so on. And every time the stock market drops, the Fed comes running to the rescue again. And that's what I feel is totally wrong. I feel it's immoral, to be honest, because in the old days, if you were a saver, take an ordinary person, an average worker who works 30 or 40 years and looks forward to their retirement. And they can just invest their money. At the time, they could invest their money in bank deposits or in government bonds that were safe, that would give them 5 or 6%. And they could live comfortably for the rest of their lives. They don't have that option anymore. They have the risk that there'll be no pension for, if they work in the public sector, they have the risk there'll be no pension for them in 10 years' time. All pensions are underfunded. If they work in the private sector, they have the risk that that money is going into the stock market that might crash. But the people who want to be prudent are not allowed to do so. And the people who want to be irresponsible and borrow truckloads of money are able to do so at very cheap rates. And we have all these zombie companies, So that's what it's a hobby horse of mine. So I'll probably go on too long about it. Certainly on LinkedIn, I do anyway.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the podcast. Don't forget our sponsor, ExpressVPN, and my book, Brexit, the Establishment Civil War, can both be found in the links in the description below. And also, please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. It's the best way to help us grow. Until next time, thanks for listening. Screw the hedge funds.
You can make as many rules as you want, but if there's no teeth behind them, what's the point?
Well, like Citadel is potentially just gone in a few months. It feels like financial institutions, that they are all laughing at us by buying GME. Screw the hedge funds. Like, I will lose my entire investment if it brings them down.
Why on earth, last May, could you buy the entire company for $200 million?
What's been happening on Reddit and in social media and in the marketplace has never been seen before.
I argue that nothing is off the table. There is nothing off the table when dealing with the volumes of money in something as big as the United States stock market.
The hedge funds have clearly underestimated a group of people raised on Friday night World of Warcraft raids.
Dark pools, they're another mechanism to manipulate and cheat. Mainstream journalists don't say these things for a number of reasons. One is their sources are the people that I'm talking about, and so they can't call somebody a crook.
Superstonk and the other communities that have emerged are a hive mind, the likes of which we have never seen before. It's madness and brilliance, insanity and genius all rolled into one. It's very possible that Citadel will be gone in a few months. And not just Citadel, but the entire financial system has the potential to come crashing down. These crooks continue to gamble recklessly with the world economy, and this could be the moment that they finally get their justice.